Okay, here's our worksheet for today. So if you look at our title, it says, can I make inferences using evidence from the text to explain my answers? So absolutely essential that we are using evidence from the text. And inferences is quite tricky because it's what we think, but it's what we think based on information from the text. Okay, so it says on page 20, Emily and Grace scrambled to their feet at once. What does this suggest how they moved and why? So my first thing I want to do is what? So I want to go to the text. I want to read that, but I actually want to read around it to just get a little bit more information, because it's not just that. It's about what's happened before and what's happened afterwards. Does that give us any more information? Okay, so I can just see there, Emily and Lizzie scrambled to their feet at once. Jim would have crawled under the covers, but his sisters hauled him up between them. If I just look before what happened, well, as Mr. Spink said, I did knock, Mr. Spink barked, but when lyrebeds don't answer, then lyrebeds must be got up. Okay, so we now know that why they scrambled to their feet. It's because Mr. Spink came in and he's the owner of the room or the house that they're in, and they need to pay him rent. So and he must be quite an important person because they got up straight away, didn't they? But it said they scrambled to their feet at once. So we've got the word scrambled and at once. So what does this suggest how they moved and why? So I'm just going to demonstrate the answer. So I've just put there, scrambled to their feet suggests, I need to put the S in, suggests they moved how? So think about how they moved. Was it quickly? Was it slowly? But then why? Then also some of you might say, well, what does that mean at once? Okay, so let's just have a look at the next question. So it says on page 21, why was the stick man not very sympathetic that Jim's mum seemed to be ill? Use evidence from the text to support your answer. So what does that mean, not very sympathetic? So to give somebody sympathy, obviously you're caring for them, aren't you? So it's like something happens. So if somebody's very ill, you're quite sympathetic to them. It's like, oh, you all right? Can I help you or anything? But he's the opposite. He's not very sympathetic at all, is he? He doesn't seem to be that bothered. All he's bothered about is money. But what we need to do is go to that page 21. Okay, so let's have a look. So he mentions, like, is she dead? Whoops. Okay, so just having a look there. Because then if she ain't dead nor sick, what's she doing down there? Lying under the covers like a grand lady with nothing to do? Hiding, is she? Counting all her money? And then if we just sort of go down a bit more. Well, if she's been working, she can pay her rent. And we'll all be happy. Up you get, woman. So see, just doesn't sound like a nice man at all, does he? You can obviously see she's not well, but he's forcing her to get up. But all he wants is his money. So let's just have a look now. So on that page, how do we know he's not sympathetic? So what we need to do is do some quotes from the book. I'll see if I can put one quote down. Okay, so I've just put here, so to start it off, I've put Mr. Spink is not sympathetic because he says, and here we are, quotation marks open, lying under the covers like a grand lady with nothing to do. This suggests something. So what does that suggest? Okay, so how does that suggest he's not sympathetic? Now you will probably use a different quote, but I want you to use two quotes. So I've just given you an example there, but I want you to use two different quotes and tell me how that suggests that he's not a sympathetic man. Okay, on page 22, why do you think the stick man had wheezy breath? So if you remember, I did talk about the wheezy breath, that he did climb, he walked up those stairs, but what does that tell us about the stick man? So what you need to do is go back to 22 and just have a look if there's any other supporting evidence that tells us what wheezy breath tells us about the stick man. I think, why would people be wheezing after they've just walked up some stairs? Okay, and the last question on pages 22 to 23, why do you think the stick man was very interested in the crumbs of pastry on the floor? Use evidence from the text to support your answer. So again, we've got to go to those pages and hunt down that evidence. Now, there's quite a lot of lines there, so that would be a longer answer needed with a couple of pieces of evidence from the text and then to expand on them. Okay, and there it mentions about he saw the pie cloth in the hearth with the crumbs of pastry that the children had left and the stain of gravy on it. He started back as if the sight of it amazed him and glared round at them all. Did you eat pie last night? The girls were silent. Did you, Sonny? Yes, Jim whispered. Was it a lovely meat pie, all full of hot and full of gravy? So, and then have a look. So we can see he's very interested in that, isn't he? And have a look on this page as well, because it does mention about the pie. And he's very interested in that pie, isn't he? About the pastry. So just think, how could you start that answer? So the stick man was very interested in the crumbs of pastry because... So I want two different answers. Okay? So something, because always explain yourself. And then Miss Varaxo went over that last half term using a structure, the PEE structure. So looking forward to your answers, guys. Okay, but really important. And the reason why is because when you come to the SATs in year 6, that's what you have. This is how you have to answer questions, by using evidence from the text. And when you do, it gives you more points. So absolutely essential to use evidence from the text and explain what that evidence means. Okay, I'm going to stop there.